Hey, what's up, Fit Fam? It's that time of the month again. Time to go over next month's Strength Club workouts for you. So we're gonna be moving into April now. I know this year's flying by. So let's get into it here. Let's talk about what we're gonna do now. We'll start with our ramping, but you can see the template. We're gonna be working our send-offs just like we did in March. It's gonna be slightly different, and I'll get into that in a second here. But everybody seemed to be doing pretty well with them, so we're gonna keep it going. I'll explain why once we get there. But we got our templates. You know how we're gonna work this. We have our ramping exercises to get started, then some power development, then we'll move into our strength training, which will be send-offs, and we'll have our finisher at the end for you. So for our ramping this month, we're gonna start with our hangs, of course. Again, great for grip strength, mobilizing, stretching out those shoulders, decompressing that spine. So just focus on your breathing. Obviously, you can use those legs when you need to as well, but really embrace the idea of just 30 seconds, focused breathing. And then I know it's not always an easy exercise for everybody, but you will get better at it the more intentional you get with your breathing on that exercise. And we're gonna match that up with our single leg Romanian deadlifts here. So great to get those glutes activated, working those hamstrings a little bit as well. So here we got, the inside hand is gonna hold, inside leg's going to be stepping back. Of course, if you need to, you keep that back foot on the floor like a kickstand. If you can, you keep that foot off the floor the entire time. If you haven't done this one with us before, start with just the bar, but you can add weight. You can also use that hammer sleeve. So we'll get 30 seconds in on one side. Again, that should be enough time to do somewhere between 5 and 10 reps. I don't want you to rush when you're doing that. I want you to take your time and focus on your form, but you don't have to go super slow with them either here. And then on the second set, we'll do the other leg. So we'll get 2 sets of each, 2 sets on those hangs. The second grouping here is going to be our half kneeling band chop and press. So again, this is where we're going to try to get those glutes activated, also get a hip flexor stretch here as well, and then get that core working here. So inside knee is going to be up, outside knees down on the floor here, and then you're going to rotate through that thoracic spine up toward that anchor point, pulling it down to your chest, and then pressing it out here. So again, the secret here, I guess the key would be making sure there's enough tension in that band, but not so much tension that you're not doing it well. So scoot away if you need to, but remember, once you pull it down to your chest, I want you to think about keeping those hands pulled down as you press that band out, because you're gonna wanna pull them up. That's what's gonna really get those abs working for you here as well. Squeezing that back glute tight. So we'll do one set in one direction. When we come back, we'll work the other side, and we're gonna match that up with some body saws or some army crawls here. So for that body saw, you can see here, feet on the sliders, glutes are squeezed tight, ribs tucked, glutes squeezed, ribs tucked, tailbone tucked here. Nice solid plank here. Even here I might say, hey Josh, get those hips down just a little bit lower if you can, but start with a small range of motion and then see what you can do here. Again, this is a lot of work for those abs and that lower back, so start small. Of course, if you need to, you just hold that plank position as well. The other option here is to work your army crawls, so one arm at a time here, back and forth. You can do a few steps forward, a few steps back. Again, at any point if you need to, hold that plank, but again, start with small steps and then see how you're feeling, and you can go a little bit bigger on those as you're feeling a little bit more comfortable. So we'll get 2 sets of those, 2 sets of the chop and lifts. And then that's it for our ramping. Now we're gonna move on to our power development here. So for this month, we're gonna start with some landmine split step bus driver. So last month we were working on our landmine bus driver. We're getting that full range of motion, and we're rotating through that foot, or pivoting through that foot, squeezing that back glute. Now what we're gonna do on this one, this is where we're gonna work this exercise for a little bit more power. Slightly different, but it's gonna work a lot of the same muscles here. So we start in that split stance. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna step back into that split step, and then you're rotating outside your front leg here. So take your time on the way down, and then you're stepping straight back, and then when you're gonna pull it up, you're gonna drive up. So you're gonna use that front leg for momentum, and use that momentum to yank that bar up. Now, you can alternate side to side here on this one if you'd like, or you can do 5 on one side, then do 5 on the other. If you haven't done this with us before, I'd suggest you start with the 5 on one side, then 5 the other, because going side to side can throw your stability off and your balance off a little bit, but really focus on weight on that front leg, driving up through that front leg and yanking that bar up to that top position here. So we'll do 5 on each side. Then we're gonna move over to the Echo Bike, everybody's favorite. Some people like that when we do it at the beginning of a workout. Some people don't, so a little bit for everybody here. So we're gonna do that Echo Bike for 5 calories. And then from there, we're gonna hop off the bike and we're gonna head over to the ladder, working those ladder drills, thinking fast feet, mix it up a little bit if you need any ideas. Obviously, the coach is gonna show you. But the idea here is we're gonna work that core and build some power through that movement, hitting up that bike and the ladder, just to get all those muscles firing at a rate of speed that gets every muscle and every muscle recruited and getting working through there. It's going to get the heart rate up a little bit, obviously, so give yourself 30 to 90 seconds to recover. Really use that recovery time so that when you come back, you have all that energy ready to put back into those split step bus drivers, bike and ladder for a second set. So we're going to get 2 sets there, and then we're going to move on to our send-offs. Now, here's the deal with the send-offs this month. I know we were working them last month. We were doing those 3 reps. We're going to stick with 3 reps here. A couple different exercises. So we're going to mix it up just a little bit. So we have our deadlifts, flat bench press instead of the incline alternating bench press. We'll do split squats or rear foot elevated split squats, and then the hip bridge row. So a couple that we've been working on and a couple slightly different ones. Again, the split squat, very similar to our step up. Rear foot elevated split squat, very similar to the step up. But we'll start with those deadlifts, of course. Obviously, we're focused here on quality form. So this is where we want to match up the weight with those reps. So we're going for 3 reps. Just like in March, I want you thinking about a weight that you could do 5 good reps up, but we're only going to do 3 and we're going to get a few rounds in of it. But the key here is we've already been doing them for a month. You've been working at a weight that you could do 3 good reps of, which means it means you could do 5 challenging reps of. Well, now this month I want you to take that weight up and go back to 3 reps. And we're going to go down on the number of rounds to get started. So we're kind of going to use this as a deload week for those of you that have just worked 4 straight weeks of it. For newer people, it's just going to be a chance to get introduced to the exercises and find the right weight. So again, I don't know what it might be for you, but let's say, for example, on that deadlift, if you've been doing 200 pounds on your deadlift for 3 reps, now let's take it up to 210, maybe 220, again, depending on how you're feeling. I don't know exactly what that weight would be, but good rule of thumb for most people is 5 to 10 pounds, or 10 to 20 pounds, on a lower body exercise, 5 to 10 pounds on an upper body exercise. Again, now some of you, we can't force adaptation. So some of you might still be working the same weight that you were before. But if you've been challenging yourself and really trying to find the right weights, you should feel a little bit stronger this month than you did last month. So we want to test that. So take that weight up. We're going back down to 5 reps. Then we have our flat bench press. So a little bit different than the incline. We're not going to be alternating those arms. It's just going to be 3 straight reps. You're going to focus on wrists staying over the elbows, squeezing those shoulder blades, pressing that weight up. Now, because we weren't doing the flat bench last month, you might not know exactly what weight you want to start with. I would say first of all, go back through your sheets and see what you've been doing when we've been working the flat bench before. But this first week might be a chance to test some weights. Typically, you should be able to go a little bit heavier with your flat bench than your incline bench, but that's not necessarily the case for everybody. But that can give you a good idea of maybe where you want to get started. And then we're going to go from the flat bench. Now remember, when you're doing the flat bench, also when you're unloading those weights, you can unload them to the floor from that lying position, or you can sit up with them. I prefer to just let them hit the floor from that lying position to save my lower back to work there, but that's up to you. Then from there, we're going to go to our split squats or rear foot elevated split squats here. So again, for some of you, it might not have any weight involved right now. You might be working on your balance here. Take your time on these reps, starting from that half kneeling position, pressing up out of that. If you want to hold a weight, start with a goblet position, whether it's a dumbbell or kettlebell. You can take those weights down to your sides if you're starting to feel a little stronger. Then there's also the vests and things like that. And if you're feeling pretty confident with your split squats, which means that you're adding weight to it and your balance is strong and you want to try our rear foot elevated split squats, you're more than welcome to. We'll take the time to get them set up, whether you want to use the bar on the squat rack or you want to use a suspension trainer. Here we're focused on squeezing that back glute as you lower that knee down toward the floor. You don't necessarily have to touch the floor, but I want you to think about that front leg doing the work here. That back leg is just supporting you a little bit here. As you're working, you are going to feel this in your glutes as well. That's why we use the Landmine RDL to kind of get those glutes firing as well, to hopefully get them warmed up. So you have that balance here. Now, of course, the rear foot elevated split squat is an advanced move. So I don't want you to start there if you haven't tried it before, but you can use that first week to see how you're feeling. So sometimes you don't necessarily have to increase the weight if you want to increase the skill level, so you can go from a split squat to that rear foot elevated split squat if you're feeling good about it. Now, the other challenge for this is it's 3 on each leg, so this is going to take a few seconds longer at first, but take your time. Don't rush to get them done. But again, start with what you know you can do well, and then that first week can give you a better idea of how you could either increase the weight or increase the challenge, whether it's by the weight or by the skill of the exercise as well. So there's a couple different ways to work on that one. And then the last one's going to be our hip bridge rows, again, just like we were working this month. Now, again, the key to the hip bridge row here is, one, finding that spot, getting the length of the TRX right so you get that full range of motion, and then positioning your feet underneath you to make sure that it helps you accommodate your strength level. So the closer you get those feet underneath your hips, the lighter you're going to feel. As you're feeling stronger, you can walk those feet away from your hips, and that's going to make your body weight a little bit heavier for those rows, so don't be afraid to challenge yourself there. The other option is to turn around and work that traditional TRX row. We are still working, looking for the exercise and the variation that you can do very well, not struggling. We don't want these reps to be hard. We don't want to feel exhausted by them. In fact, as you're moving around the room, if you're starting to feel afraid of doing the next exercise or starting like, man, I don't want to have to do another set of that, it's probably a little too heavy. And that's the real challenge with these send-offs, is finding a weight that you can do well and practice it without letting that ego take over and making you think that you need to do heavier. We're going to get a lot of reps in. The last couple sets is where you're going to start to find out if that weight was right or not. So again, in that first week, we're going to do 60-second send-offs. We're going to do 5 rounds. Again, this is going to give you a chance to find the right weights without any too much pressure to kind of, get a bunch of sets in here. So take your time with it. And then in the weeks 2, 3, and 4, we'll take the time down on the send-offs and we'll start to take the volume up. So by that last week, you're going to get 7 sets of 3 reps, in which gives you 21 total reps, whereas we're going to start with 15 reps, which is very similar to doing 3 sets of 5 reps. But when you do 3 sets of 5 reps, you're probably going to feel pretty tired after each set if you're doing the right weight. With this program, it allows you to do a little less than you absolutely can, but it's going to give you more time to do more reps. So in the first week, we get 15 total reps. By the last week, we're going to get 21 total reps in of a weight that is challenging for those 5 reps, okay? So once we get done with that, we will move on to our finisher here. So we're gonna, again, work on our chin-ups. Again, I think this is a valuable exercise for everybody to practice on a regular basis. So we'll put them in the finisher here. Combine that with some swings. So we're gonna go 5 to 10 chin-ups here, using those bands for assistance if you need it. Again, this is where I always encourage you, err on the side of going a little bit lighter to perfect your form. I would rather see quality reps that are a little bit easier for you than reps where you're not getting the full range of motion, but you feel like you were working hard. Working hard is not the only factor here. It's doing them well and then them being challenging as well. So 5 to 10 reps there, and then we have our swings, so either 5 dead stop swings or 10 repetitions. Now, on days that we're doing deadlifts before we get to our swings, I also encourage you to go a little bit lighter on your swings here so you can focus on your form and not put too much stress on that low back and glutes and hamstrings, because we already worked them a little bit as well. Nothing to be afraid of, but just, you don't have to be going 70 or 80 pounds and going really heavy with your swings on a day that we've done those deadlifts. This is where we want to develop a little bit more of that power and speed there. It's also being done for a conditioning purpose, not necessarily strength training here. So keep it a little bit lighter so you can focus on those quality reps, driving those heels into the floor, pulling those kneecaps up, squeezing those glutes nice and tight, 1 good rep at a time. So either 5 dead stop swings or 10 repetitions, and then we'll head over to the sled and we're going to push that sled down and then drag it back. So again, here for this, you have a couple options. You can go a little bit heavier and a little bit more intentional, maybe a little bit slower here, but for our purposes and conditioning wise, I encourage you to find a weight that you can move quickly with it. I don't want it to be too light, but I want you to feel like you can push that sled down and then drag it back fast. And the conditioning is going to come from moving at the rate of speed, not necessarily a heavy resistance on that sled. Because again, we are at the end of a workout as well. This is about, really getting a good conditioning burn at the end. So if you are struggling to push the sled all the way down or struggling to get down and back without having to take breaks, it's definitely too heavy. I want you to find ways that you can move well, and also you'll already have done some chins and some swings, so heart rate's already gonna be up. We're using up all that ATP already, so you might need something a little bit lighter than you traditionally do. But then sometimes we'll find out some of you have an ego, and you're gonna try to satisfy that ego at the same time. So coaches will be here to help you with it. Hey, I'm excited about this workout this month. I know I've got a lot of good feedback from people about those send-offs. I promise you this will be the last month in a row that we do these send-offs, but I like to see the progression here. I'd like to see those weights go up a little bit, so at the end of this next 4 weeks, that by the end of April, we have a 5-rep weight that is much heavier than what you were doing before we started these send-offs in March. Again, that doesn't necessarily work for everybody, but if you put the focus into finding the right weights and focusing on your form and doing the reps well, you should see that result as well. Okay, so that's our Strength Club workout for April. I'm really excited about this one, guys. Love you, bye.